Hi, welcome to the third episode of Coffee with a Couple. Hi, I'm Dan Digman,
And hi, it's me, Jennifer Digman.
and we're a couple takes on MS. I'm walking,
And I'm rolling.
but together we're moving forward. And what we do with our coffee, it's just like a check back at the week that we had, looking forward to the week ahead, and just checking in with you, just like if you came over to visit and we'll say, hey, let's pull up, have a cup of coffee. So that's what we're doing, just have this conversation.
And if you like what you see, please don't forget to subscribe, push on the button down at the bottom, and check us out and have coffee with us every week and maybe see some of the other adventures that we do to move forward with our multiple sclerosis.
And so, moving forward, we just got the word from our governor yesterday that we will be here in Michigan, stay-at-home orders till June 15th.
So, because of the COVID 19, we're staying at home. And while Dan is continuing to work remotely here at our house, I find that I'm doing activities of daily living, but I'm also spending quite a bit of time watching television. And one of my favorite activities is to watch television in the afternoon while I'm riding my leg bike. And so this week was no different. Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock, I tune in faithfully for the talk. And it was really interesting because one of their guests that they were talking about, well, she wasn't a guest, but they were talking about Lisa Kudrow and her time on Friends.
And okay, so the interesting thing, okay, remember this happened at 2 in the afternoon. Jennifer chooses to bring this up to me at 11:30 at night as we're getting into bed. And so we ended up having a conversation. I think I turned the lights out. It was like 1:45 in the morning because the conversation that Lisa Kudrow that they had talked about was saying how here in 2020, just questioning how well Friends, the show she was in, would go over because in 2020 because the cast was 6 white people, and how would that happen here in 2020?
And what's interesting is that the talk is a cast of 5 women who are very diverse, and that was the point, that in 2020 we need diversity and inclusion. And Eve, one of the television show hosts, was talking about growing up and being a preteen and teenager watching the Friends, and she loves the show. But just how being a little African American girl, she said there was no one of color on the show and she felt very excluded. So I'm watching that and I'm shaking my head and I'm like, yeah, Eve, that's a really good point. But then I look up at these 5 women and not a single one of them has a visible physical disability. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, where am I? How am I represented? And Eve made the point, continuing in the discussion, to say how important it is to see yourself on TV. And I thought, what about those of us who have physical disabilities? Where are we represented?
And I think that was a key point. Obviously, that we were up till 1:45 in the morning having this conversation because it's like showing somebody with a visible physical disability, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody with a walker, somebody who uses a cane. I think that's a conversation for another time. Is like, for me, I have an invisible illness. My MS is invisible. I have an invisible disability, and so I think in terms of inclusion from that standpoint, well, obviously you can't see that, so I mean that visible doesn't really pertain to me. But yeah, somebody who's like my wife who uses a wheelchair, and how often do you see people on TV in commercials who are in wheelchairs?
So then Dan is thinking he's going to get to sleep. But I bring up the point, like, yeah, I mean, as much as I want to see myself on TV, how authentic would it be if just boom, all of a sudden one of the hosts started using a wheelchair? They included someone with a physical disability. So I thought you can't win for losing if you're on the talk, because I want to be included, but I want it to be authentic. So I wondered, as we're having coffee, what about you? Do you want to be included? Do you want to see yourself on TV? Is that authenticity important? Because then, boom, the next morning, Friday morning at 11 o'clock, I'm riding my leg bike. Or no, Friday
You were
morning
leg bike with the talk.
I was leg bike on Thursday and I was doing standing frame on Friday. So Dan's helping me get into my standing frame, and of course, watching The Price is Right. So we get to the middle of the show because I had missed the beginning, but I was there for the important part where they spin the big wheel, and one of the contestants, she was in a wheelchair. So I saw myself on TV, and it was pretty cool, but what was really cool was the awesomeness that is Drew Carey.
And Drew Carey, and it was incredible. And whether he saw it, he knew it. But I mean, the lesson that he taught for all caregivers or people wanting to help other people who use wheelchairs and everything, because she spun the wheel once, and you know it has to go around at least once.
Because if it doesn't, that's not good.
It doesn't count. You have to do it. It's like a do-over. And she did it again, and it didn't go around again. And Drew turned to her and he says, "Mind if I help you?" And so together they did it, and boom, they ended up spending $1. So she won $1,000, right?
Woo-woo.
But it's just like that he gave her the chance, that she tried it and tried it again and didn't do it, and then asked her, "Do you mind if I help you? Can I help you?" And that's something that I've learned being the primary caregiver for Jennifer is I always let her try, let her do her thing, and if she doesn't accomplish it, then I say, "Can I help you?"
And this is most common in eating. I have difficulty cutting my own food, and sometimes I have a hard time getting my fork to my mouth. That's the way it is with MS. But instead of Dan just jumping in and taking over for me, he will offer, "Do you want some help?" But the same token as the person that's being taken care of, I'm not so headstrong that I'm like, "Oh no, I want to do this and I'm going to make a mess and get food all over the plate and get upset and ruin the meal." I have to ask, sometimes, "Yeah, can you help me?" So that's communication and just being open and being receptive to offering for help, or offering to help your person, your spouse, or the person you're taking care of, and that person needs to be receptive to receiving that help. So it was a really good lesson, and it was fun to see myself on TV, to see myself represented in a fellow wheelchair user who did an awesome job when she had the opportunity, because before you spin the big wheel, you can say hi to your mom and dad, or you can say hi to your friends. But she took that moment when Drew asked if you had anybody you wanted to give a shout out to. And of course, she being a wheelchair user, she said, "Yeah, I want to shout out to Elon Musk and say, why don't you spend some of your time figuring out better handicap accessible vehicles." So she used her platform, and it's like, good job.
And so I guess that is the question then for you. How was that, as it started the conversation with the talk and wanting to see yourself? You saw somebody who uses a wheelchair on The Price is Right. I mean, how does that make you feel then?
It made me ask Dan, like, how quickly you want to think we can go to California, get on The Price is Right, or ideally, be a contestant on Contestants Row, or go to The Price is Right and spin the big wheel there. I think that seeing other people with the same kind of conditions, I don't want to say difficulties, but the same realities that I'm dealing with, they make it possible, and I know that it can be possible for me. So we will maybe someday come on down.
And so with that, I mean, just how everything came full circle. And so really thanks to the talk for starting this conversation, and then for Price is Right for keeping it going. But we want to keep it going with you. So please let us know your thoughts, your perspectives. How important is inclusion and showing the people living with disabilities, with visible physical disabilities, and invisible disabilities. We'll get to that at a later date, but I'm talking straight up physical. So let us know. Comment on the YouTube channel here, or visit us on our website, acoupletakesonnms.com, or visit us on Twitter at DanGenDig, and just comment and say, what are your thoughts? Where are you at with this conversation?
And again, you can keep the conversation going by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Click on the button right there on the screen. Subscribe.
And so thanks for joining us for the conversation today. We will talk with you next week for whatever happens this week. Hopefully it doesn't keep me up till 1:45 in the morning.
Have a good week.
All right, take care.